Some of y'all might think this is a bold claim to make, but Gojo Satoru might be the best character in manga, or at least in recent manga. And when I say best character, I do not mean best written character. Best written character would probably go to a character like Thorfinn in my opinion. In my opinion, best character includes other factors. Other factors like the influence he has in his own series, the influence he has in manga in general, or even the influence he has in people's lives. How appreciated he is by the fans, and of course how well written he is. In this video, I'm going to discuss all of these factors with y'all and explain why I think that Gojo is a way better character than others. Let me know in the comments if you agree with what I have to say later on in this video. If you enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get into it. So first, let's talk about the character's writing. Gojo is a character that is very hard to understand. While a lot of people might think he is a very simple character, it is very easy to miss what he actually is. A character with a great personality, regrets, as well as an actual purpose. But a casual watching the series will not notice something like that. People simply think that he's just that strong guy that looks cool all the time. Somebody that has no depth in his character, as well as no weaknesses. Most people believe that Gojo is that boring character that is just very strong, but everybody just likes him because he looks cool. But Gojo is not as basic as you think. The first thing we need to talk about is his past and his purpose. Gojo used to be a character with no purpose. Even when they were only students, Gojo and his friend Geto were already considered the strongest. Geto always being the one to remind Gojo about what is right and what needs to be done. Gojo was simply taking care of the missions and protecting his friends, and of course he would save somebody if he could save them. But he didn't see the importance in putting that much work just to save non-sorcerers. But Geto was always there to remind him of what was important. Even though Gojo didn't really understand the point, he was still working with Geto and trying to figure out the best way to save people. But even then, Gojo still had feelings for people. Riko Amanai, being the star plasma vessel, had a very tragic fate waiting for her, and it was her duty to be sacrificed to Master Tengen. But Gojo went as far as convincing Geto to protect her, saying that if she doesn't want to merge with Tengen, they will protect her. They will protect her from Jujutsu High and the higher-ups. Which wasn't that crazy because they were strong enough to do it, but it's the fact that he let his feelings get in front of his duty. And this is something that we need to notice about Gojo's character. Because even though he's the strongest and he's basically the law, he is somebody that has to make sure that the world is at peace. But even for someone like this, his feelings can still get the best of him. But let's continue with Gojo's story. After Amanai's death and Gojo's awakening, him and Geto weren't as close anymore, and the gap kept getting bigger. And this is whether we're talking about strength or about their friendship. And as time kept going, after witnessing time and time again the ugliness of the non-sorcerers, Geto started losing his mind and ended up wanting to get rid of all the non-sorcerers, calling them monkeys and worthless creatures. Gojo couldn't understand that because Geto was always the one telling him that it was important to protect them. Such a flip didn't make sense. But even when Gojo found him, he couldn't do anything about it. He still let him go. Once again, he prioritized his feelings over his duty. But before leaving each other, Geto taught him a very important lesson by simply saying that line: "Are you the strongest because you're Gojo Satoru, or are you Gojo Satoru because you are the strongest?" At that time, Gojo was nothing but the strongest. His character had nothing else to offer. He didn't really care about saving people. All he was doing were the missions that he was given, and he only cared for his friends. And he wouldn't be able to do anything he was doing if he wasn't the strongest. Everything about him revolved around him being strong. But after this, Gojo actually started changing. He wanted to make the world a better place, and his goal was to reset the Jujutsu society. And instead of just taking care of everything in the world, he would let his students take care of some things. Like for example, the fact that he let the students fight Geto, simply because he trusted him and knew that Geto wasn't going as far as killing his students. Geto, who was the person that even though he knew he couldn't accomplish his dream, he still tried to do it, just to die with no regrets, knowing that he tried his best to get rid of non-sorcerers as well as getting rid of the curses. After he found him after the fight against Yuta, Gojo actually killed Geto this time, but instead of getting rid of the body, he actually wanted to keep it, just to honor his best friend, which resulted in Geto's body being stolen later on, which made Kenjaku one of the strongest and biggest threat in the world currently. Something we have to notice about Gojo is that he always fails. Even though he's so strong and he never seems like he's able to lose, he always fails. First, he couldn't even save Amanai, and later on he couldn't save Geto or even finish him off when he needed to. And even in Shibuya, he couldn't prevent the incident from happening, or at least even reducing the damage. He ended up getting sealed because of his feelings again. He could have got away but found himself trapped, just because he got distracted after seeing Geto. And even though he would be a good character for somebody that used to have no purpose, but actually has a purpose now and actually strives to do better and create something better. Currently, with the events in the manga, we get something even more complex. As we all know, Gojo just died in the manga. There is a possibility of him coming back, but we're not talking about that in this video. When Gojo got killed, we got a scene in the afterlife with him talking to Geto and all his old friends. In that scene, we could see Gojo talking about what he felt, and not once did he mention Megumi. He barely mentioned his students or even his plan to reset the jujutsu world. All he did was talk about the fight against Sukuna, saying that he had no regrets because he was actually able to find a rival or somebody that's stronger than him. He was glad to be able to die in such a way instead of dying of old age or sickness. His only regret was the fact that he didn't think that he pushed Sukuna far enough. He doesn't really care about what's about to happen to his students, his friends, or the world in general. After this, a lot of people thought that Gojo's character was ruined. Part of his character was him being confident, and right there all he was doing was glazing Sukuna. Another part of his character were his goals for his students and for the world in general. He didn't even mention that once, almost like it didn't even matter to him anymore. But this actually adds more depth to Gojo's character. It makes him even more complex than before. What people are forgetting is that the main thing about Gojo's character is his solitude. Gojo is the same as Sukuna. They might have goals, but the main thing about them is finding a rival. And after finding that rival, Gojo was so happy that he didn't even remember anything else. To him, anything that had to be done was fulfilled. And for the people that complain about Gojo's confidence, it wasn't Gojo being overconfident. Gojo was calling himself the strongest because he was the strongest. There was no existing creature that could prove him wrong. He wasn't being arrogant, he was just telling the truth. And now that he actually found somebody that is stronger than him, he will do the same thing as he usually does, tell the truth. He used to say he was the strongest and nobody was on his level because he was true. And now that he was proven wrong, he will admit that he is wrong. I also would have liked for Gojo to mention the others, but this direction is not bad. I would even go as far as saying that it was great. It was cool to see how strong Gojo's desire for love was, so strong that he even forgot his other purpose or even the other people that are waiting for him. I could go on and on about how great his character is, but there is more things to cover. Now we need to talk about his influence. By influence, I'm not saying that he's like Goku or Ichigo, characters that inspire other mangas to do things. This is not the type of influence I'm talking about. And the first thing we need to talk about that is very funny to me is how the manga sales for JJK skyrocketed. I don't have the exact numbers with me, but you will get what I'm trying to say. Before the chapter where Gojo got unsealed, Jujutsu Kaisen was not even in the top 5 of manga sales. It could have been top 5, but it's basically from 5th to 7th place if I remember well. And from the chapter when Gojo got unsealed, Jujutsu Kaisen had just been destroying the competition. Jujutsu went to first place and by far, or even the fact that the fight between Gojo and Sukuna has made so much noise that it was impossible to not get spoiled. There are some people that don't know who Akari is or who Kashimo is. Unless you just don't use social media, it's just impossible for you to say that you did not know that those two were fighting. It is everywhere on any social media, everywhere in any sort of community that you have. You might have a friend reading it. It was just everywhere. The fight put the whole community in a chokehold for multiple months. And I haven't seen anything like that maybe ever since Ultra Instinct. Which is even crazier because in between that time we had Gear 5. Knowing how good Gear 5 was, on top of how annoying One Piece fans are, you would think that this would just be everywhere. But until it got animated, I didn't even see that much of it. I was seeing some things about Gear 5 here and there, and if it wasn't for a friend telling me, I probably wouldn't even have known. And a lot of the Gear 5 posts were just hyping it up. The Gojo and Sukuna fight is just about people analyzing it every week. People on different sides analyzing different things every single week, making multiple videos a day, always having something new to say about the topic. Every week there would just be some sort of cliffhanger, something that would just leave half of the community just worried, while the other half of the community will be happy. All sorts of emotions from just one fight. And I'm not going to say that all the hype was because of Gojo. I know Sukuna also contributed to that. But my point here is that ever since Gojo got unsealed, everything has just been great for Jujutsu Kaisen, at least in terms of sales and success. Or even the fact that his death is creating so much emotion. I know some people are mad because of the way he was executed, I understand that part. But a lot of people are just really sad that Gojo died. And the reactions were crazy. It went from people crying on social media to people actually losing their minds in front of their family. They literally named the star Gojo Satoru, and I'm not joking when I say that they literally paid for a star to be named Gojo. Gojo just has such a big influence on any scale that you wanna use. In his own series, we already know how important he is. So much influence that even criminals would hide, simply from the fact that he was born. He was simply a kid and people would stop committing crimes as a whole. If we wanna talk about manga, we simply gotta talk about the fact that Gojo's name has been in every anime community recently. And it's not even like Gear 5 fans recently that were or just harassing people about it. It's simply people discussing about the character or the fight. Or even in real life, having people lose their mind over him. And I can understand women, but there are even men that are acting crazy over him. And I call him my glorious king as a joke, but I guarantee you some people are not joking when they say that. It's so crazy that you would think the fictional character is actually real. Gojo just has everything to offer. He's one of the coolest characters ever seen in manga. His design is one of the best as well. He is also one of the best when it comes to character writing. And in terms of influence, even though he's a new character, he's comparable to people like Goku, Yusuke, or even Ichigo, which is crazy because no other recent anime is doing that. His death was so impactful that a character like All Might is dying and nobody cared about that. There were even some My Hero fans that were mad that nobody was talking about All Might's death. But what can we say? People simply care more about something else. And All Might is also a great character from recent shonen. It's not like it was just some random scrub dying. It was literally All Might and nobody even cared to mention it. Boruto is actually looking good now and he has a new technique that looks intriguing. And even though some people would question it, not much people will care about it, just because of how much space Jujutsu Kaisen is taking in their head. And even though people like to say that the series is getting carried by Gojo, I don't think it's true. The series has good writing and does great things on its own. But I would be lying if I denied the fact that Gojo is paying Gege's bills. The last thing I wanna mention is about Gojo's haters. The fact that there is nothing to hate about Gojo, and the only people that actually hate him are people that hate him because he's successful. Not even Sukuna fans actually hate him. They were just on Sukuna's side. It could be because they simply thought that Sukuna was stronger, or even that they thought Gojo should have died just for the story to continue. But a lot of people on Sukuna's side were actually Gojo fans as well, and a lot of them even preferred Gojo to Sukuna as a character. But if you actually hate Gojo, you can tell me down below if you actually have a reason for it. In the end, Gojo is not as simple or as happy as you think. His character is a tragedy, and not only he is the strongest and cannot find any sort of rival to satisfy him, but even while being the strongest, he is not able to even save anyone. Despite all of his strength, it literally always fails. Gojo is really just like Kakashi, a character with a lot of regrets that lost everything, but despite that will continue to smile and pretend to be happy and always act cool. Let me know in the comments what you think about Gojo's character. Let me know in the comments if you agree that he could be the best character in manga of all time, or even in recent manga. I appreciate y'all for making it to this point, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like. Get this video to 200 likes or any video you would suggest, and sub to my channel, but only sub if you enjoy the content that you see here. I'm trying to reach 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I'm counting on y'all for that. You can give me any sort of criticism or video idea for the future. Thanks for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.